All right. Welcome to the channel. Right now, you can be any place in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Um, at the time of this recording, it's a new year. It's January 1st, 2022. Hope your holidays was well. Hope you brought in the new year on a good tone and a good note. If you're watching this video in the future, I hope your day is going well. So today, what we're doing is a skin tutorial. How to make believable skin and render it in Marmoset. Um, some of the things we will cover, or we will cover, will be how to make UVs, how to lay out UDEMs, how to color grade, how to make supporting maps, and how to hook up these maps in Maya and Marmoset. It's a fairly long video. Get some coffee, get some tea, whatever you enjoy, and watch the video. Hope you like it. Hope you get something from it. And I should talk to you later. Peace. Okay. What I'm showing you here, this is a program called Unfold 3D. So don't get scared or afraid if you see this. You're like, what is this? Everything I'm gonna show you here, you can do in Maya. I'm a Maya user. You can do this in Maya. You can probably do this in Blender. I'm sure it's an add-on to cut up UVs in Blender and other 3D applications, but I'm primarily a Maya user. And I started using Maya in the bad old days when the UV tools wasn't that good. So I started using Unfold 3D, and I've stuck with it. I'm comfortable with it. This is my go-to way of doing UVs. So when you're doing UVs, what you have to think about is you have to cut it up in a way that makes sense. You just can't randomly cut it up because if you're in a production setting, the texture artist has to read your UVs. He has to be like, is this a leg or is this a foot? What am I looking at? So you have to cut it up in a graphic way where you understand what's going on, or if you pass in the model on to somebody else in the production team, they understand what's going on. So the second reason you want to do this is because when you have good UVs, that can help your modeling. So let's say this leg. If I make this leg a UV shell, I can take this inside Maya and I can select this leg separate. And if I cut up this arm, I can select the arm separately, select that arm separately. Depending on my UVs, I can select different parts of the model and isolate it and model on it based on my UVs. So that's another reason why you have to have a well thought out UV system. So I usually start with the head where I come in. And usually when you see this, it's more of an A pose or a T pose. So the model will be more straight or symmetrical. But since she's in a pose, it's, not much symmetry in here. But the ideal way would be in a T pose. But this still applies to the T pose of this. So what I usually do is I come in and I do like so. Oh, I select a ring like that, and I select try to find where the center at. Select a ring here, and I bring it to about here or so, or here, right there, and I cut that. Let's see what it unfolds. Okay, so you see the rest of the body has not been unfolded, but the head has. So I want my map to be sort of like that. But see the mouth and the ear, we can do a little bit more with that. So we can actually separate out the ear. So this is a trick I do when I UV. I try to separate out my ear here. Good cut. My ear here, it's a good cut. So when I texture, I can texture the ear separate from the body. Ooh, what's that there? Pretend you didn't see that. I think the displacement map did something to that. So I cut out the eyelids as well. I want that separate. And I cut out the mouth for a mouth bag. I want that separate. And I try to come up here and I separate out the interior of a nose. Now, when I'm doing this, you probably like, well, why are you doing this? This doesn't make any sense. But once we get to the texturing part of this video, this will make total sense. So let's test that. Unfold. All right, mouth is much better. All right, so I want to come in all the way through the body. That's another cut. And like I said, it's up to you to devise your own way of cutting up the body. I've been doing this a while, and this is usually how I do all my figures, where they pose or not. Cut here, cut here. And since we're splitting it, we want to make a cut here. And once you start UVing, you play with different scenarios, different schemes, different techniques, so you can get like a workflow or a workflow that works for you. This is how I do it. So something else to why didn't it go all the way around? That's why you always check your model to make sure it goes all the way around. And once you get used to doing this, you can like really UV something in like 10 minutes. UVing is not it's not hard like it used to be, kids. It used to be a pain and you know what. But there are a lot of new modeling tools or UVing tools that make this seamless. And put a cut down here to separate that. Cut down here to separate that. Um, so if this was in A pose or T pose, I would want to separate the shoulder here. That's usually how I do it. But since it's in a pose like this, I'm going to separate it here. And the reason I would do it here if it was an A pose is because I want that shoulder and the arm separated from the body. So if she had like a tattoo or something was going on, I can just get to it easily. But this is in a pose, or it had to be rigged or something like that. It's easier to get to it if it was cut here. But since it's posed, we're just going to cut it here. Hope that makes sense. And same thing with this. We're going to cut that there. Cut. We're going to bring a line here to separate it. And I'm just holding shift and bringing this up. I would love to. So I did this video before, and it turned out to be like darn near like 5 hours long because I went into all the different programs and all the different things I were doing. But I had to shorten the video down. So in the future video, I will give like a more in-depth tutorial and unfold. But right now, I just want you guys to see what I'm doing. So if you want to know more about the software, there are tutorials online, and I will do a more in-depth tutorial about this, but we want to keep this video manageable. And like I said, what I'm doing, you can do it in Maya. You're selecting the edge and cutting. That's all I'm doing. And for people who are new to UVing, sure if I brought this up before, the purpose of this is you taking the 3D shape and you flatten it, you make it in a 2D shape so you can paint on it essentially. And that's what I'm doing. All right. So come in here and do the feet. the feet that way. Boom, cut. Boom, cut. Separate it. And separate that out. They're looking good. They're looking good. Same with the hand. Just come in. Uh, oh, I hate UV in hands. Two things I hate in life: modeling hands, UV in hands, and retopping hands. Hands are a pain in the you know what, but you have to do them. Okay, there we go. Cut that. See where we at. All right, separate that out. Boom. Now this should all unfold. Hit U to unfold. Okay, so you see where we at now. Everything. Oops, we got something here. What didn't we do here? What is this? Huh. Okay, we got something weird over here. Let's see. I'm doing all this in real time, so you can see my mistakes as I do stuff. Okay, this is what we didn't do. I think. Okay, I believe this is it. Okay, this is the culprit right here. Let's weld that. That did not go all the way around. Okay, now it went all the way around. Cut that. We should be good. Let's try it again. Unfold that. Okay, now why do we have something weird with our fingers? Hold on. See, I'm keeping my mistakes in. Here we go. That's why you have to check, trust but verify, to quote President Ronald Reagan. Always look around your model and check to see what you're doing. Okay, why do we still have issues here? It's doing a weird cut. So the issue is, see how this hand looks? This hand right here, that culprit is supposed to look like that hand. Okay, I see what's going on. Okay. Let's try this again. An extra edge loose for some reason. Okay, so let's try that again. Cut, unfold. There we go. That's what we want. That's what we want. So let's move this border over some more. Let's not. All right, so we have our UVs done right here. So now what you would do next is pack them. I could pack them in Unfold, but I like to pack them in Maya, and I also like to do a Udemy workflow with that. So what is that, you ask? Well, let's jump into Maya and find out. All right. All right. Welcome back. So we're back in Maya. You can see my nice low poly model I have. Um, this has nothing to do with UVN. but just a thought or recommendation. When you're UVing, make sure you use your low poly model. Um, sometimes people ask me, why do you why do we retop? That's so we can get low poly models like this and we can reproject it onto the high poly. So once you UV in, do not UV on your high poly model and do not UV on a model that has poor typology. You would not get a good result. So make sure you have good typology and make sure the model is, pretty low poly, and you'll get like a good UVN result. But for people, who want to see the typology, the wireframe, here it goes. Um, so what we're going to use is a UDEM workflow. So what's a UDEM, you ask? Well, I hope you ask. I'm about to explain it to you. But before you do that, here in Maya, to set that up, you need to go to your view, click grid, and this is going to come up. Units. Make your units. I use 10 to 10. You can use 20 to 20. Use some number in between there so you can have UDEMs to stack your grid onto. I use a subdivision of 5. This will not work unless you set this up. So remember to go to view, grid, set this up. Leave this up here so you guys can look at what I have, and you can either use what I have or come up with your own, device. Uh, Click that. So what's a UDEM? So when you first open it up, your UVs are all over the place like this. So you could UV or texture like that, but you see how things are overlapping and your resolution will be low. So what a UDEM is, it's a device that came up by Weta where you can separate the UVs out to every grid. So I would end up texturing this in 4K grids. So that means that this head right here will be 4K in this grid, and that's maximum resolution. Or let's say I'm doing 8K. This head would be 8K. This is the hold on, because I'm doing this on separate screens. Okay. I'm used to having 2 monitors up. Okay. So this is the body. So the body itself, this is 4K or 8K, whatever resolution you have. So when you do high up shots of the model like this, say you're doing like a movie or something and you need like a high up resolution shot, there will be no blurriness, no fuzziness, and your texture would be crystal clear. It would be 8K. Which you can do also, like if I could have cut this up in a different way, but I could have had the cheek separate and this separate and put that on its own. You would have had even more maximum texture and space. And you can go as high as you want. So there are, like I said, we went 10 to 10. So it's 10 here and it's 10 up. That's why we made it 10 to 10, 10 across, 10 up. So let's do that. So also when doing this, um, VFX artists, they use UDEMs. Games are not starting to use UDEMs. Almost every package supports UDEMs except for Marmoset. And I believe, I'm not sure if Keyshot has UDEMs, but every other package supports UDEMs. So it's fine to do your stuff in UDEMs. You would get a better result, better texture resolution, and it just helps so much. So essentially how the packages read it, if you're worrying, it will read each of these spaces as one UV set. So once you bring it into Maya, well, we're in Maya, but once you apply it, you won't have to apply one by one by one. You have to do that in Marmoset, but I'll show you how to get past that. But in Maya, it reads it as one material. So you're cool. So if you wanted to split your U them up until like 10, 20, 30. You're fine. However you want to do it. Don't go too crazy with it, but do it in a way that makes logical sense to you. Also, when you land out your UDEMs, make sure your UVs are going the same way. This is what I mean. So here we're going like top down, top down. If you were to go top down, and go side to side like this, if you were to go tile a texture on there, like so, your textures will not read wonky, you know. Hope that makes sense, but try to keep everything going the same way. It's just a better organizational thing. And to see your grid, just hit that button here. So try to keep everything going the same way. Oops. Okay. Let's get back on track. And you see, I'm just laying this out like so. What you don't want to do is you don't want to touch your borders like this. This is a bad UV. If this is touching or overlapping, it's bad. You want to keep your UVs inside of this. Um, some people say, it's close to go right to the edge. I don't touch the edges. I keep everything inside just like that. You can increase the size some more, but we try to keep everything like so. And like I said, the advantage of this is like everything would be crystal clear, high dynamic. Okay, let's get all these in here. Okay, so once you're done, you want to have something like this. So it's my head, body, arms, legs, ears, hands, feet, mouth. Mouth, eyes. So I grouped so these are my eyelids, my nostrils, and my mouth. I just generally group those together because you won't see it, but I just group those together. You can come up with any type of way you want to do that. So this is how you lay out UVs. And as a little bonus, I will show you what I mean about Maya reading everything as one texture. So give me 1 second to set that up. Okay, so we're back. I'm here in a hyper shade. So all I did is I got a AI standard, which is this, and I brought in the material. This is what you need to do to get the UDEM to show up in Maya. Once you go to your file node here and you bring in your texture, it's what it says UV tiling mode, click that. Make sure you are in UDEM. So when it renders, it will render everything out. Now, if you want to see all the textures in the viewport, you hit generate preview and you hit 6 on the keyboard. Give it some time to think. Or maybe I should apply the texture. How about that? Just right click, assign. Okay. There we go. Hope YouTube doesn't flag me for that. There we go. So now it's reading the whole texture. It's a whole set. So that's how you get UDEMs to work in Maya. And I'm just bringing it off and on by hitting 6 and 5 on the keyboard. So like I said, this works in Unreal. It works in Maya. It works in just about every application I know except for Marmoset, and I'm not sure about Keyshot. So use UDEMs. You will get high resolution skin textures like that. So hope that helps. So let's get on to the next part of how to grade your textures. Okay, we are back. So what we just covered with the UVs in the laying out UDMs. Hope you guys understand that. And if not, there's a ton of information about this on the internet, but it's something that you should be familiar with. So I hope that helps. If you're a beginner, go research this stuff. If you're just getting into it, research this stuff. Research that, look it up, familiarize yourself with it, and make sure your UVs and your ULMs are laid out properly. That is the key to texturing. If that is wrong, you hit. You can't do anything else. If you go back and try to change it in the texturing process, it's a nightmare. So that is the number one thing you want to get right. So before we move on to the next part, let's talk about philosophy here. And what I mean by philosophy, there are two schools of thought when it comes to texturing skin. There are people who like to hand paint, and then there are people who like to texture paint, right? So so when you hand paint, most people think you can only get stylized results from that, but that's not true. I've seen people hand paint and can get results like this or better. And if you texture paint, people think you can only get realistic results when you can get a very stylized result as well. It's just a tool. It's not an ends to the means. I hope that makes sense. As for myself, I am a texture artist. I believe in using bitmaps and textures and tolerable textures and all that stuff. So that's the technique I'm going to show you. I'm just getting you familiarized with the two schools of thoughts. So the first thing you need, we're going to pull up this site. It's called 3DSK. Hey, they have a sale going on. So I had to do this tutorial a couple of times, and I'm going to show you why. Let's see. Can we click on this young lady? Go to her set. Cool. So if you go to 3DSK, what they give you, she has 32 pictures. Let's hold on. Let's find someone else. See, all this is in real time. I'm showing you guys how we do it, how we roll. Okay, search. They're giving us her, so let's roll for her. We're just gonna roll with her. So how this works, if you have a photo set, usually they have like close to 300 pictures or more. This one has 36, but usually they have an abundance of 300. And they give you closed models, but if you go down the rabbit hole, they would give you the model completely nude from the rootum to the tutum, if you catch my drift. So since this is on YouTube, I can't show you the nude models. But if you go on 3DSK and you search, you will see that you get the photo set and you get the model. They start off clothed and they end up nude. I mentioned this in a video before. If you want to be serious about this, these cost a couple of bucks. These are pricey, but this is something that you want to have in your collection. I've been doing this a while, and I've got just about every photo set from off this site. Excuse me. Yeah, every photo set from off this site. It's a really handy site, and it's like the perfect way to do scan. So I think I hear you asking the question, why can't I just get a photo offline? Why do I need to go to 3DSK? Well, let me show you why. So let's say you want to take images offline. We can go with Paul Rudd. If you look at what comes up, there's something in the camera called a focal length. You're getting different focal lengths that distort the picture. And when you download this image will be so compressed it won't be usable. Plus the light won't be the same. If you see the light in here and the light in here are completely different. Focal lengths are completely different. All this stuff is completely different. When I first started off, I asked the same question. Well, why can't I just get images offline and don't pay for it? I tried it. Does not work, folks. Does not work. You need something like this. These pictures are suitable for what you want. So, I want you to pause the video. I want you to go to 3DSK. Just look at some images. See if it's for you. If you want to follow along, download a set and build up your library. So let's go into Photoshop and get into the grading process. All right, we're here in Photoshop. So if you look at this image, this is what I was talking about earlier. See how crisp this is? You can see everything. This is nice and crisp and clean. These are the kind of images you need if you want to do a realistic scan. There's some light in here. If you want to, you can clone stamp this out to make it a little bit more flat. But you don't want to make it too flat. Like see around the lips where the white is here. You want to kind of keep that in there because that's exists. You can clone stamp that out. The white in her eye, you can get rid of that. But you want to keep some of that white in here, but you don't want to keep too much of the specular highlights. So if I were grading this, I would get rid of this. But how to really grade the picture, you have to go into this, shadows and highlights. Adjustments, shadows and highlight. You click that. Before we do that, so we can see the before and after. That would be smart. So let's try that again. Shadows and highlights. And what we're doing here, we're just grading this down. We're like flattening this out. So it can look more like skin. So see how that's changing? You don't want to go too far, but you want to try to get this as even as you can. It also depends on what type of skin you're going for. Hey, this is pretty good. So when I'm grading, I usually see the slight difference. And then I come in with a hue and saturation. So remember earlier when I was telling you, if you're using a texture map, you can still do stylized characters. So say you want to do a green girl, you can come in here and change the color of the skin, and still get more stylized texture or more, saturated color. But right now I'm trying to, there we go, get something like that. So how this works is when you get these photo sets, you get like, usually with the skin that's showing all the skin you need, you probably have between 140, about 150 pictures. It would be a pain in the butt to come in here and try to do this for 150 pictures. So what you need to do is do it as a batch. So here you go. You just go to File, Automate, and you batch that process out. I hope you guys know how to batch. There should be videos on YouTube about it. In a newer video, I will come in and show you guys how to do this, but it's really simple. You're just gonna batch all your pictures out. So everything you did here, it will apply to the other 150 pictures you did. And that would take about 10 minutes to do this whole thing because no one has time to do this to 150 pictures. Hope that makes sense. So this is the original. This is the new one. See how that's more even like skin? I hope it shows up on YouTube. So as you get more experience with this, you will develop an eye and you'll be able to come in and, grade your photos like so. So this is the second process, grading photos, taking out the extreme specular highlights and, grading down the skin till you get like a nice, even skin flow. So let's get to the part everybody wants to see. How do you paint the stuff? See ya in Mari. All right, so here we are inside of Mari. Now let's see what's going on here. So a quick overview of how you have to set this up. Um, so once you're inside of Mari, we're going to work in layers. Wait, pause before we do that. I've been using Mari for a while. I mean, going back to like version 1. So when I first started using Mari, when this first came out, it worked in a layers-based system. Recently, Mari has changed where it's more of a node-based system. So if you look at videos online, you'll see a lot of people using nodes. I'm like an old school Mari user. I use layers, but we're doing the same thing, except for they're doing it in a node and I'm doing it in layers. So if you look at other tutorials and they're using Mari, you will see a lot of those guys using nodes and I'm using a layer based system. But it's the same thing, they just going about it different ways. So don't be confused by that. That said, let's get started. Um, I made a new layer. This is a layer we're working with here. And oh wow, where are we thinking? We didn't project anything. So basically how this works is drag this out. Okay, here we go. So you see the chroma of the picture change when it's not on white. You want to make sure you're on the white square here so you can get the proper representation of the color. So what you could do, but it's a no-no, is to paint far away like so. If you just say, I want to get maximum coverage and paint away slow, you can do that. But you're defeating the purpose of Mari because you're getting something that would be low resolution. And do that. What you want to do is you want to paint this relatively close up, like so. I can't show you all the pictures in here because, like I said before, some of these pictures are, kind of not friendly for YouTube. But this whole set has everything from the you know what to the you know who is in here. So basically, you're just matching that up to this. So if you're in Mario, you hit the shift negative key, you can make this more transparent and you can see what's going on. When I'm in Mari, I use like 5 brushes. I use Super Soft, Super Flow. These are my blending brushes. I go to organic brush. I use the Sexy Oil. That's like my loaded brush if I want to put down a lot of color. I use like Sponge 5 to get something with texture on it. And I use this, where we at? Here we go. This one brush, and that's my hammer. So if I just want to put in like a chunk of color like that, I just use that. Or sometimes I might use a Lambert, but that's basically how I work. So we're gonna come in with the sexy oil brush at first. We're gonna line this up. If you hit shift and plus, the color fades back in. So we kind of want to match this up as best as we can. Come in here like so. If you hold the R on your keyboard, you can increase or decrease the radius while doing this. So we want to put all that in. I'll get all that information in. And if you hold Control and Shift, you can increase or decrease the size of the picture. If you hold Shift, you can move it back and forth. If you hold just Control, you can do it like that. So that's how I'm doing that on the keyboard shortcuts. I'm just getting that in like so. And my method of doing that is I just bring it in and I blend everything in together. So you see I switched to one of the brushes I was telling you. And this works like Photoshop, just a bracket key to make this go in and out. So I'm just blending that together. So earlier we laid in all those Udums, right? And you may be still wondering, like, why do we need to use a Udum? Why do we do this? The power of Mari is, you can do this in Substance, but you can't do it as well in Mari. You can paint inside the Udum. It has full Udum support. So you see all our Udums here. So you can come in and paint this flat. You can paint on the model or you can paint it in flat like so. You see how you blend all that in? We're painting in all of that. Now, as you do this and you get more comfortable doing this and more confident and you really understand this workflow, you can do a color map in a half a day or a day. If you're doing full body, if you're doing heads, you can probably do a head in about an hour or two. Usually, if you're working on a production, you rarely do a whole body. You're mostly doing heads. But if you're doing like a personal project or for whatever reason, you have to do a whole body like this. This is kind of the workflow you would go with. So you see, I'm just blending that in, blending that, blending that in. So all those rough areas in. Hear my computer thinking. Okay. Here's just, generating the map, baking everything in. So we got that baked in. All right, there we go. So you see, it will be hard to paint underneath there, but if you're doing that like this flow, you can just come in here, paint that, blend that in like so. Oops, I don't want that. I'm gonna keep this. And this is what you kind of do with the whole body, even the other maps you're coming, you're painting what you need and you just blend everything else in together. So I spend most of my time cleaning up seams or making sure everything is blended correctly. Bake that. That is baked now. All right. So, if you recall earlier when we did this, we did the mouth and the nose. No, yeah, the mouth, the inside of the nose and the eye. So we wanted to texture that separately. This is the projection tab. This is the paint tab. This is the eyedropper. So if we select her eye right here, we can come in and sample her eye color. So that is that. And we want to come in with the hammer brush, the one, and just get that in there. So you see the inside of the eye textured and it's separate from everything else. So when I go and texture paint the face, the inside of the eye will not be touched. All right, take it down like so. Same thing with the lips. Just bring that in here and sample that texture like so. Same thing. Hammer that in there. You see how that blends that in there? See how that went from white to pink? We put that in there like that. On the inside of the nose, it's up to you. It depends on where you cut this at in the UV. I cut this pretty deep, so if you want to, you can just make that black, or you can make it the color of the skin. It's totally up to you. Okay. Yeah, you can make that black, or you can make that the color of the skin. It's up to you. Make that bake out. So that is why we did that separate, so we can do this in the texturing process. So we can have that isolated and do that in the texturing process. So let's go back to here. Hit B to bake all that down. So remember what I was telling you before about isolating stuff. So see here how this hand is in that way. But since we laid out our UV so well, our hands are right here. You can select that, go to selection, hide selected. You are now hiding that part so you can get to that part. And this goes in modeling too. So once you load this into ZBrush, you can hide that and sculpt on other parts. So these are the arms, selection, hide selection. So we can now paint here without anything getting in the way, which is awesome. Awesome. Awesome sauce. So we come in here. So this is where the blending brush is handy. This is just like painting in real life. Okay. It's like painting in real life where you just want to terminate the edges, make sure we're on white. Okay. So how I usually do this, I make sure I terminate those edges and blend inward. But any of my people who are like trained painters, this will make perfect sense. What's one of those blending brushes I use? So I start here. And another cool trick about Mari. So right now we are in a lit mode. So it's kind of, you can see what's going on, but it's kind of hard to see what's going on, right? Hold on. Here, if you go to the, oh, gotta think. Here, if you go to the shading mode, if you go to flat color, all the color is flat. So you can really see what's going on and what you're doing, how you're applying the texture here. So when you're doing this, go in and out of the flat shade mode just so you can see. You want to mostly be in the flat shade mode, but you really want to just make sure you land this down evenly. You don't have any big discrepancies. Looking pretty good so far. But see how it's like a little discrepancy here? We don't want that. We want to come back and kind of blend that out. Blend it out here. Boy, this is being really slow today. Or we can come in here and blend it out. And this is, the benefit of Mari. You can come into the flat shade or the model and just paint on this stuff. Really awesome. Big Mari supporter. Boom, 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 boom. All right, show you another trick on how I do ears. This is how I do ears. So this is the ear texture, and where did you go to here? Okay, so this is the ear texture. So if you look at this, let's put basic shade back on. What I basically did with this is I came in Photoshop and I like clone stamped out all the inside ear information. So you just clone stamp that out or whatever till you get that flat, right? So you want to go into your Udem's. Oh, I'm sorry. First, what you want to do, you want to see where you're going. So you start it off like so. And you see by painting out all that shadow information, you can get like a smooth gradation in there. You can get all the inside information of an ear. So you paint that in there. I think the OBS is slowing down my computer. That's weird. Okay. So this is where we start painting at, and you come in and you blend all that together in a flat shade. So voila, you got all that ear information for free. Yeah, that's in there. And that's how you do an ear. You just come in and do it to the other side of the ear. Now, I would like to walk you through all of this, but this is YouTube, and this has some inappropriate parts in here. So I'm gonna try to walk you through as much as I can, but what I'm doing, I hope you can get the gist of it. Okay? All right, we're back. So this is like the belly. So what you want to do is like you don't have to line it up perfectly, but you want to be sort of in that area. Let me with my sexy oil, increase that, bring that in there. Get that all the way in there like so. All right, bake that. Come with one of my brushes I use to blend. Like I said, these are just the brushes I've used. Like once you start using Mario, or if you choose to use Mario, you'll find out you don't use those many brushes. And I just want to blend that skin together like so. Destroy that edge. Yep, destroy the hard edge. Just blend that in. That is my goal. And that's sort of it. So, like I was telling you, if you lay out your UVs correctly, you grade your textures correctly, the rest of it is just like mindless painting, really. But it is a little bit more to it. And what I mean by that is the most important map in skin is the color map, but also the least important map is the color map. So what do I mean by that? I mean, once you go to render this, to really make this pop, your supporting maps, like your spec, and especially your subsurface maps, will make your skin look realistic. And usually how I do that is I bake those maps in Substance. So we'll get to Substance in a second. But I hope you guys get the gist of this. It's only so much I can do because, this contains some nudity and this is on YouTube. But if you get the pack, you paint the legs, you paint all that. I showed you the ear trick. I showed you the eye trick. You paint all that. You should be good. As you're literally just lining things up, painting it. That's all we're doing here. And get like a real crispy color map out. So see, that's all. That's it. That's all you're really doing is just making sure your color map is nice and even. So look at all this good information you're getting for free. This is why I like to use texture map. This looks like skin because you are using skin. The key to it, I'm gonna emphasize this again. The key to it is just you have to make sure you're grading this stuff right, and you have to make sure your UVs are right. If that is right, That's half the battle right there. Your skin will be right. The rest of this is just projection painting. Uh, so my model has some displacement on there. That's why you're seeing those little issues come up like that. But that's fine. Come in to the flat shade and kill all that. This is why you want to go in between, painting on the model and painting in the flat shade so you can get those hard to reach areas. So when you're all the way finished projecting this, you want to have something like this. I got a scene here. Let's paint that out. Blend that out. That's another issue. We'll worry about that later. But see this scene? You don't want the scene. But for now, this is okay for now. But this is how you kind of want your map, your color map to look once you're all done painting everything. And like I said, I wish I could have took you through everything, but there are a lot of photos, any things on this model that I can't show on YouTube. But this is how you paint a color map. You just, well, using textures and using 3D you just bring your textures in, you grade everything, and you projection paint. This is the way I do it. This is the way a lot of texture artists do it. This is a really precise way to get skin. So hope you guys dig that. I'm gonna see you in substance, and I'm gonna show you how to bake your supporting mats. See you there. Hold up. Wait a minute. Before we get into substance, I forgot to show you guys this, how to set up your Mari scene. So when you open this up, you go to File, Create New Project. This comes up. First thing you want to do is go to your color settings. Excuse me. This OCIO config, I suggest you put it inside of ACES. ACES is the best way to explain it, it's like a coloring workflow. It's so you can get more accurate colors out of your texture and you can pump more light in the scene. Mari has it, Unreal has it, Marmoset has it. Just about every rendering software. I'm not sure if Blender has it, but just about every major rendering engine has ACES. This is what you need to be working on, ACES. So you want to make sure your colors is set to ACES. In your channel, see how they say linear? So you either want to be in Arnold, so when that pops up, you're not ACES CG, or you want to be in V-Ray material. But you want to make sure that comes up as ACES CG, and you go to your geometry and you just import your model. So the most important thing is make sure here you are in ACES. Here in your channels, make sure you're either in the Arnold or the V-Ray. So all your ACES CG is set up. This is the color space you want to paint in. It would look funny if it's not in this. So when you paint it in Mari, it would look weird. So if you're in ACES, everything would look right. Got it? Got it. Also, one more tip. How do you export this? It's a special way you have to export this. So say these are the layers you have painted on. You select all those layers, you right click, and you want to export selected layers, flatten. So you got your layers, you flatten them. You want to write it out to wherever you write it out. So you pick the file location here. Here, color space. You want to make sure you are in utility STRB. Um, if you are exporting this out to Maya, say, you want to make sure this is an EXR. It wouldn't be a TIFF. It would be an EXR, and you would be an ASUS. Yeah, come on, jeez, it would be an ASUS. Okay, it's having a fit. Why are we having a fit? Geez, you want to be an ASUS CG. So if you are exporting this out to Maya, make sure this is a EXR and not a TIFF. You just take that and you just type in EXR. That's it. And make sure you're an ASUS CG. If you're exporting any place else to render, make sure you're in a TIFF or JPEG, whatever you use, and make sure you are in sRGB. These are the two color spaces you want to be in to make the ASUS textures work. This is very important too. If you're not in the proper color space, your texture map will look weird. So you got that? Memorize that? Get that done. Now we will see you in Substance. All right, all right, all right. So we are in Substance, the last step to this process. I just went in and I baked my textures down. I just used my low poly, my high, so to bake anything down. So the texture set, you go to bake maps. This is the high poly scope out of ZBrush. I just use that as a low poly mesh. Anti-Edison, I used to put that on two. And yeah, that's it. And then I just bake all my maps down. So that's essentially what I did here. And I went back to that process. So I'm gonna do that, make a new fill layer. So what we're doing here, we're making our supporting the maps. Usually what I do is go into the environment, get a better lighting scenario. Something like that. Something like yay works. So go back up to my textures. Um, is it making me bake my textures again? I believe it is. Hold on. I have to bake this out again. Okay. Let's do that again. Wow, that's weird. So you can see the textures being baked. Awkward silence. Okay, I don't know why it made me do that twice. So, all right. So these are my textures baked out. So when we're talking before, I told you the most important map is the color map, but it's also the least important map. The most important maps are the subsurface scattering map and the spec map. Um, there's an advanced way to put these maps inside of channels, but I'm not going to show you that because I don't want to confuse anybody. I want you guys to be successful in what you're doing. So I'm going to show you how to do this the basic way, but it still works. We just want to export these out one by one. So this is a SS map. So you want to take your thickness map, which is this map. You see we have 8 Udums. and convert it all to ULIMs. So if you hit C on the keyboard, flat shade, M, material mode. You're gonna be in flat shade with C. And the first thing you want to do is want to hit a levels, and we want to invert that. So once we have subsurface scattering, um, subsurface scattering, you don't want it to go everywhere. So this is like masking it off. But usually you want subsurface scattering, see in the invert. You don't want the subsurface scattering there like it has it. You want to invert it. You want it more around the mouth area, chest area, this area. This is like where you want it. But you also want to give your subsurface scattering some more variation. So what's cool about substance is you can go to grunges and let's give it this like so. Go to your blend mode, find a blend mode that works for you, or the opacity some. And basically you're just playing with these grunges until you find something that you feel. Something like so. Go with another blend mode. Something like that. And then maybe we want to put a curvature map in there. And we go back to our textures. This is our curvature map here. Put that in there. Blend that. Find a good blending mode. Oh, let's see what happens if we invert that. Nah, I don't like that. Get rid of that. I want something like that. Kind of like that. Or soft light. Yeah, I kind of feel it is. So this would be a good subsurface scattering map. So the way the subsurface scattering works, basically it's just like a red. It's like the redness of your skin. You can just Google what subsurface scattering looks like. It's like it's coming through your skin. This will mask it off and give it a more believable look. So this is the SS mask. This is what we're going to put inside of Marmoset. This is the important map too. So once you're doing this, most important thing, the first map you need, like I said, is the. So yeah, so go into a blending mode. Play with that something you like. Kind of like that. Yeah, that feels good. That feels good for a spec map. And like I said, this is all up to you as an artist. So you come in here and just make your maps and just make these supporting maps. And the other map you need is just a good old AO map, good old fashioned AO map here. Boom. That's pretty much how I just roll with the AO map. These are the most important maps. So once you're done with all that, go to File. What I usually do, um, I pack these maps, but like I said, that's more of an advanced technique. So what you need to do, what I want you to do is export these maps one by one. Okay, where are we at? Okay, so this was our SS map. So you go to File, Export. You choose, what file directory you want it to be in. You choose your format here. You choose, I usually go with 16K. Yeah, 16 and whatever you want to go with. If you want to go with EXR, it will be right here. It'll be 32-bit and you can make it 4K. So whatever you want to do, just export it, get that going, get your maps out. And now, after we have all that together, I will see you guys in Marmoset. All right, all right, all right. So we're in Marmoset and we're getting ready to apply the textures. One downside of Marmoset is it doesn't have UDIM support yet. So if you recall the way we applied those textures in Maya, that won't work here. We have to do them one by one. So if you're doing a UDIM workflow and you're using Mari, be careful with that because it might impact your performance, but we should still be good. But we got to do it one by one. So let's start with the head. Call this head. And I'll bring this in. Just looking for the textures on a separate screen. And the first map we're going to bring in, see, this is how our units are laid out. So this is the first map we're going to bring in. This is the head. So the head is there. And we're right here. So I'm drag that on top of there. Now, a few things we have to do. You're seeing. When I made this in Maya, I scaled this up in feet. So she is 5'9" in real world scale, and I'm using feet. So if you were using centimeters, make sure your scaling unit. What's going on? Okay, another hiccup. Okay, make sure your scale and your unit are within whatever unit you're using for your model. That's the first thing you have to do. Make sure that's correct. And your renderer, okay, let me take ray tracing off. This is why we're going slow. Ray tracing, you want that to be on in your renderer, but if you're applying texture, it might slow you down some. I keep my bounces like to 4, my transmission to 4. I crank my shadows. I put them on ambient occlusion. You can crank that as far as you want to. The most important thing is in your main camera or whatever camera you're using, make sure you are in the ASIS workflow. This is the color space we're in. So if you followed me in this video, you should be in ASIS. And that's kind of the main thing for right now. So follow that, you should be good. So we hooked up our Beetle map, which is our color map. And our transmission right here, you want to click this button And for skin, make sure you're in subsurface scattering. It's giving you red. This is your subsurface scattering. The map we made remember we made the SSS mask, which is, let me find that map. All right, that is this map right here. This map is masking off the color. This mask is telling it, okay, I can't enlarge that, but to not put SS everywhere. So let me show you what I mean. So if you click this on, then we go to full quality. That's what it looks like with the SS on. That's what it looks like with it off. So make sure your SS is on. All right. Uh, roughness. I always want to invert that so it's less shiny. So hit inverse, go to your roughness. If you made a roughness map, put your roughness in there. Usually go for like 0.5 or something like that. There. The micro surface, default is metal. Make that spec. Find your spec map. Geez, why don't you stay over here? Find your spec map. And put that in. Put that at like 0.5, 0.3, somewhere in between there. Those are usually the numbers I start off with. And you want to go to your ambient occlusion. So I want to use the I find my ambient occlusion is at. If I can find my ambient occlusion, here we go. I want to use that. I set that to like 0.5. And turn my ray tracing back on. And you see what I'm getting with that. It's pretty good. Looks pretty good. Double check that. Okay, we're good. Yeah, that's it. So I would make a body, and I would just do this for every unit I had. So this is the body. Same drill. Like I said, people in the community been asking Mama said to have UNIM support. I really feel if they had UNIM support, that would just take this to new levels. But to that come, we have to do it like this. And the reason I'm bringing this to another screen is stuff on here. I don't want YouTube to flag me for anything. So I'm bringing it over to my other screen so nothing pops up. And this is the body where we are here. So see how it looks without all the other maps hooked up, and see how it looks with the map hooked up. You can tell the big difference. This is just this color map with no other maps. It still looks nice, but you can see how those supporting maps make it look like skin. So that's why I harken back on what I said before. The color map is the most important map, but it's the least important map. It's all the supporting maps we made to get the skin popping that makes it look like skin. I think you can definitely see it here. The SS is making it look like skin, and the spec is like, it's controlling like the specular highlights, and the roughness is controlling everything. The AO is controlling the shadow. So those supporting maps are the most important maps. If you nail that and you make your skin seamless, you can do skin. And that's the trick to all this. So, Normal map and displacement map, we're not going to really get into that now, but if you want to add a normal map, um, I have a normal map baked here. You just put that there on generate Z, generate Y. Nope, no, don't generate object space. Don't do that. But sometimes you want to flip this. But that's it. This is a pretty high poly mesh already. That's why I didn't put the normal map in there. But if this was like a um, lower resolution model, yeah, you want to use a normal map and displacement map. But for what we're doing, this is a high poly mesh, so we don't have to use that. Go back to the body. This, oops, forgot subsurface. Running my mouth too much. You want to put that at 5. Now you want to kind of crank up the scattering depth. Yeah, it's making it pop even more. Yeah. Okay. So body here, transmission, subsurface scattering. Find the scatter map for the body. Wrong map. Want scatter map. Where are you? Scatter map. There we go. There we go. Want to set that to 5. Micro surface, we want to invert that. Hook up the roughness map. That is annoying dragging that across that screen. Make that specular. Same thing, find that specular map. This is the only annoying thing about UDEMs when you're inside of Marmoset. You have to do it one by one, and I get it. It gets annoying, but you get really great results. So put in our occlusion map. There we go. So you see the good quality that you're getting just by that. You see how well that looks. So if you nail, first thing, nail your UVs. Second, nail your UDEMs. Third, color grade your maps. Fourth, after you make a great color map, make your supporting maps. Nail that. If you do all that, you can make awesome skin. It's not as hard as you guys probably thought it was. After you watch this video, you probably like, that's it. You're like, yeah, that's it. It's not that hard. You can do this. I got faith in you. I'm gonna link my Instagram to this. If you guys follow this tutorial, I would love to see what you guys can make using these techniques and tag me and stuff. Let me see it. I'll critique it. Whatever. But yeah, this is what we got so far. Let's put all these maps. All right, so this is what it looks like with all the textures on here. I want to show you one last little cool trick. I'm not sure if you guys knew. So when you're in Marmoset, of course you can bring in extra lights from here, but you can also use the lights from your HDRI. If you click it, it creates a extra light source. And you can brighten that up. Do what you want to do. Click that, hit W. I'm using Maya shortcut keys. And do like that. You can change the color. Let's go with or red. Change the intensity, whatever. Go back, move it around. So you can see you're using that light to influence color. You don't have to stop there. You can use this light as well. Let's make that like a purple or something. Um, let's move this up some. Like you can translate this any way you want to, but you can take that, move that around, do a lot of things. Yeah, this is a fun thing to experiment with. So you can take that light, translate it, move it here, move it there, move it around. Maybe that's too bright. But yeah, you can come up with like different lighting scenarios just by using those extra lights. That's a really cool feature. I'm not sure if too many people know about it in Marmoset. But that's all we got for now. I hope you guys got something out of this. Um, hope you learned something. And like I said, if you follow this tutorial, I hope to see what you guys make. Thank you for tuning in. It's viewers like you that will hopefully make this channel into something. Like, rate, subscribe. I'll see you on the next round. Peace.